I came home at 6:42 a.m., shoes soaked and shoulders aching after a double shift at the hospital. The air smelled faintly of antiseptic and pine cleaner, my version of holiday cheer. I dropped my bag by the door, where a small suitcase already sat packed. A forest green sweater peeked out from the zipper, neatly folded beside carefully wrapped gifts, a bottle of wine, and 2 jars of rosemary stuffing mix. The same mix they requested every year, though no one ever remembered I was the one who made it. My apartment was quiet, still dark. I made tea and stood by the window, watching San Diego wake up, soft light spilling over rooftops, traffic humming to life. I was tired but content. Christmas was in 3 days, and for once, I was ahead of everything. Then my phone buzzed. Noah. I smiled, probably asking if I could pick up napkins or drive Mom from church again. I answered. Hey, Elena, he said, voice a little too bright. Listen, Chloe's coming this year. You know how she's really into energy and vibes and stuff? I didn't say anything. It's just, with your work and everything, he continued, it can sometimes feel heavy. For her. You understand, right? Like it might be better if you sat this one out. I didn't understand, but I recognized the tone, that soft, guilt-laced way of saying you're not welcome. He didn't say, you spend your nights helping people die with dignity. Just heavy. Like I was some kind of mood killer in their curated holiday aesthetic. An hour later, Mom called. Elena, honey, she began sweetly, we're just trying to make it easy for everyone. Chloe's very sensitive. If you come, it might confuse things. Honestly, if you show up, we might not answer the door. That was it. Not just uninvited, unwanted. I didn't cry. I didn't protest. I simply said, okay. Then I hung up the phone, walked over to my suitcase, and zipped it shut, not to leave, but to unpack. Outside, the city glowed in early sunlight. Inside, something colder settled. Not rage, not sadness, clarity. When people talk about favoritism in families, they like to imagine it's obvious loud praise, blatant neglect, birthday cakes with one name in frosting, and the other scribbled on an index card. But that's not how it was in our house. In our house, it was quiet, casual, polite, the kind of favoritism you could explain away with a smile. Noah was the miracle child. That's what my mother always called him. Born after 5 years of fertility struggles, 2 miscarriages, and 3 rounds of IVF. I was the one who came easily. The early one. My dad once called me the prototype at a barbecue right before handing Noah the bigger slice of cake. He was always different in their eyes. Charming, sensitive, artsy. Everything he did was magic, even when it wasn't. When he colored on the walls with permanent marker at 6, they said it was expressive. When I broke a dish while helping set the table, I was careless. I had to pay for the replacement with my allowance. I was never punished harshly. That would have been too obvious. No, I was ignored in that special way where your presence is expected but never celebrated. When I brought home straight A's, they smiled and said, "That's nice," then tucked the report card away. When Noah came home with a participation ribbon from a summer art class, it stayed on the fridge for 2 weeks. I remember once, I must have been 14, I left my sketchbook on the kitchen counter, not by accident. I had drawn something I was proud of. A charcoal portrait of our grandmother, eyes soft and wrinkled like the last day I saw her. The next morning it was gone. I found it in the recycling bin under a grocery flyer. When I asked about it, Mom blinked and said, "Oh, I thought it was scratch paper." I never left another drawing out again. When I got into medical school first round, no wait lists, no second tries. I printed out the letter and handed it to her. She read it, nodded, and said, "Wow, that's intense. Just be careful not to burn out." When Noah dropped out of college for the 3rd time to focus on creative direction, they threw him a re-entry party, balloons, cake. A framed photo of him holding a paintbrush still hangs in the hallway. You'd think he cured cancer, but I kept going. I graduated early, got licensed. Started working with the elderly, the forgotten, the invisible. People like me, I gave them time care attention. At home, I gave just as quietly. Paid for plumbing repairs without being asked. Sent money when Noah's freelance gigs fell through. Picked up mom's prescriptions. No one noticed. But that was the point, right? I wasn't supposed to be seen. Just useful. Being the reliable one in the family is a bit like being the scaffolding on a pretty building. You hold everything together, but the moment the paint dries, they want you gone from the picture. And still, I stayed. Out of love, maybe, or maybe just habit. Because when you're raised to be the backdrop, stepping into the light feels like rebellion. I didn't make an announcement, no dramatic post, no vague quote about protecting your peace. Just a series of quiet clicks on a banking app. First, the monthly $800 top-up I sent my parents to cover their mortgage paused. Then the rainy day account I kept in a separate fund for their car repairs, dental bills, and holiday emergencies locked. Noah's loan won $200 I'd wired over last fall. When he just needed to get through one slow season, I didn't ask for it back. I just made a quiet promise to myself, no more. Even the shared family calendar where I used to coordinate mom's physical therapy appointments and Noah's flight confirmations, I deleted my access. And then, nothing. No message. No explanation. Not even a change in tone. I think that's what made it powerful. For years, my role had been quiet support, invisible labor, financial backbones, emotional glue. And when I removed it, not with a bang, but a whisper, the silence was finally mine. I didn't feel angry. That surprised me. There was no righteous fury, no burning urge to call and say, "Do you even realize what I've done for you?" They wouldn't hear it. They never had. What I felt instead was space, a vast stillness I hadn't known I needed. The kind of peace that only arrives when the performance ends, when you stop auditioning for a role you were never going to get. That night, I didn't scroll through old photos or reread old texts. I made dinner, a simple soup. Lit a candle not because it was Christmas, but because I wanted to. I sat down with my bowl and ate slowly, as if feeding myself were not just an act of survival, but ceremony. Somewhere my phone buzzed again. A group chat ping. I didn't check it. Didn't even glance. Because for the first time, I was done being available. Done filling in the cracks. Done cushioning the landing every time Noah failed and Mom looked the other way. I wasn't angry. I was done. And that somehow felt stronger than rage. Because I finally realized love without boundaries isn't noble. It's self-erasure. And I had erased myself long enough. Christmas morning came without fanfare. No smell of cinnamon rolls or turkey roasting. No carols playing in the background. Just the quiet hum of the heater and the soft rustle of rain against the window pane. I made tea. Sat at the kitchen table wrapped in my robe. The suitcase still sat by the door, unopened. The gifts, still wrapped in gold and green paper, were stacked neatly beside it. No names had been crossed out. No tape peeled. I hadn't touched the tree either. It stood in the corner, unlit, a little crooked. I didn't fix it. I didn't need to. There was no anger in the silence, just stillness. I wasn't sad, not exactly. But I felt the shape of something that had always been there, the space where family should have lived. And for once, I didn't try to fill it. I didn't check my phone. I didn't scroll for distractions or wait for apologies that would never come. I just sat, sipped tea, listened to the rain, and I thought, maybe this is what clarity feels like. Not a thunderbolt or a dramatic revelation, but an exhale, a loosening, a truth settling quietly inside your bones. I was never celebrated, only used. They loved me most when I made things easier, paid the bills, booked the flights, smiled on cue. They mistook my reliability for passivity, my care for weakness. I was their backup plan, their safety net. But this year, I wasn't there to hold anything together. And nothing fell apart. Except maybe the illusion that I ever truly belonged. I didn't open the gifts, didn't light the candles. I just let the day pass, and with it the weight of trying to matter to people who only valued what I gave, not who I was. It was 3 days after Christmas when my phone rang. I almost didn't answer, the number wasn't saved, but something about the timing made me pause. I let it buzz once more, then picked up. Hola mi niña, the voice said gently. Tia Rosa. She was my father's sister, the only one in the family who still sent birthday cards with handwritten notes and little pressed flowers taped inside. We hadn't spoken in months, but she never forgot me. Never once treated me like I was invisible. I just wanted to check in, she said softly. Things got strange on Christmas. I said nothing. I wasn't sure what she knew. They're saying you ruined it, she continued, which is strange because you weren't even there. A chill swept through me. What happened? I asked. She hesitated. I could hear the clink of dishes in the background, the muffled echo of a house still half decorated. Then she said, Chloe saw your photo. That stopped me cold. It was just an old picture, Tia Rosa said. On the mantle, from maybe your birthday years ago. But she recognized you right away. Said, that's Dr. Elena Reyes. She treated my abuela. My chest tightened. I remembered Chloe's last name now. Ortiz, and yes, her grandmother, Mrs. Ortiz. Stage 4 bedridden, mostly ignored by her previous care team. I sat with her nearly every evening, held her hand when she cried about her missing rosary, found her son's old voicemails and played them for her. She made it 3 more months than expected. Every day mattered. What happened after I asked? She got really quiet, Tia said. Then she asked your mom and Noah if you were the sister they always talked about. And whatever they said, it didn't sit right. Chloe didn't yell, didn't cry. She just stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out. No goodbye, no drama. Later, she blocked Noah's number. And that was the moment Tia Rosa said when everything shifted. Because for once, someone outside the family saw the truth. And she didn't stay silent. The next morning, my phone rang again. This time it was my mother. She didn't bother with a greeting. I don't know what you said to her, she began, voice tight and fast, but now your brother is a mess. I blinked, still half asleep. What, Chloe? She snapped. She blocked his number. She won't return his texts. And she posted something online, some kind of statement. I sat up. What kind of statement? My mother let out a breath like steam hissing from a kettle. She didn't name names, but people are figuring it out. She called us a family that mocked a woman she admired, and everyone knows who she's talking about. I didn't say anything. She tagged your photo, she added, voice sharp like glass. That one on your hospital's website. The one where you're smiling in the lab coat. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because of the absurdity. That picture had been taken after a 16-hour shift and 3 cups of burnt coffee. My hair was a mess. But apparently it was now a symbol of something they couldn't spin. She's ruining Noah's future, my mother hissed, softer now, almost pleading. Her post is going viral in her circles. People are sharing it, tagging art galleries, saying he's part of some toxic family culture. He's being blacklisted, Elena. Blacklisted. She paused as if waiting for me to gasp or apologize or spring into action. I didn't. So she continued carefully. We need you to clarify things. Just a message. Just let her know it's all a misunderstanding. That we never meant anything cruel. That she misunderstood. Right. Because now I was the family's publicist, the fixer, the spin doctor for a Christmas party I hadn't even been allowed to attend. I stood up and walked to the kitchen. Poured myself a glass of water. My mother was still talking. Her voice climbing up and down the ladder of urgency. I interrupted. I'll think about it, I said flatly. There was silence. She didn't know what to do with that. I hung up before she could respond. Then I opened Chloe's post. It wasn't angry, not even dramatic, just honest. She wrote about me as a doctor, the one who sat with her grandmother, the one who brought lavender lotion and hummed old boleros softly while checking vitals. She wrote about walking into a house full of people who laughed about that same woman, who joked, dismissed, minimized. She didn't use my name. She didn't need to. One line stood out. I whispered to myself as I read, "Some people hide cruelty behind polite smiles and holiday lights." And then the last sentence hit harder than anything my family had ever said. But the moment I saw that photo, I remembered what real kindness looks like. I read Chloe's post again that night, sitting on the floor of my apartment with my back against the couch, knees pulled up like I was bracing for something. But no storm came, just a quiet knowing. She hadn't written it to hurt anyone. There was no venom, no theatrics, only truth. The kind you can't unsee once it's spoken out loud. She wrote about how families sometimes bury good people under small comments, how warmth can be weaponized, how someone can be the kindest person in the room and still be the target of jokes dressed up as love. And then she wrote about me. She didn't use my name, but I knew. Every word was a thread stitched from memory. She wrote about the doctor who stayed late after shift changes to sit with her grandmother. The one who spoke slowly so she could follow, who didn't rush even when the monitors beeped impatiently, who treated her grandmother like she was still someone, not just a body in a bed. She didn't save her, Chloe wrote. She made her feel like she was worth saving. And I cried. Not the dramatic, broken-hearted sobbing I used to do in the silence of my childhood bedroom. This was different. This was a release, a soft unraveling. Because for the first time in years, someone had seen me clearly. Not as the too serious daughter, not as the fixer, not as the problem, but as a person, a woman, a healer, not erased, not resented, remembered. I had spent so much of my life shrinking to keep other people comfortable, tucking away my light so it wouldn't outshine someone else's fragile image. I had gotten so good at being invisible that I almost forgot I existed outside their version of me. But Chloe saw me, not through family filters, not through obligation, just me. And she told the world. It came late, just past midnight. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a new voicemail. From an unknown number. I almost didn't check it. But something told me it wasn't spam, and when I tapped play, her voice filled the room, soft, hesitant. Real? Hi, I hope this is okay, she began. I got your number from your aunt. I needed to say something. She paused, and I could hear the slight catch in her breath. She wasn't performing. She wasn't angry. I didn't know, she said. I didn't really know who you were. But when I saw that photo, I remembered your face right away. You treated my grandmother, and she still talks about you. She says you were the only one who made her feel seen, that you listened, that you stayed when others didn't. Another pause. Longer this time. I'm so sorry for what was said about you, for what they laughed about. I had no idea. I couldn't sit there and pretend. So I left. That was it. No request, no apology on behalf of anyone else. Just truth. A thread of grace in a world that so often leaves women like me stitched into silence. I listened again, then once more, and on the third time I cried. Not from hurt, not from rage, but from something softer, something I hadn't felt in so long I'd almost forgotten the shape of it. Recognition. She saw me. Not the version my family built, twisted and used. Not the too much, not the too serious. She saw the woman who showed up and stayed. The one who sat quietly at the edge of a hospital bed and said, "You still matter." And finally, someone believed it. 3 days later, a small envelope arrived in the mail. No return address, just my name in delicate handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of thick cream paper, the ink slightly smudged in the corners, like someone had held it a little too tightly while writing. It was from Chloe. She thanked me not just for saving her grandmother's life, but for seeing her, for treating her like a person when others only saw a diagnosis. She wrote that her grandmother still goes to the farmer's market every Saturday, still insists on yoga twice a week, and still tells the story of the young doctor who looked her in the eye and said, "You're not done yet." That line stopped me. I had said it without thinking. A quiet reassurance in a long hallway, but it stayed. It mattered. I read the letter twice, then found a soft wooden frame tucked in the back of my closet. I placed the letter inside and hung it beside my desk, where I finish my patient notes every night. Not for praise, not for proof, but as a reminder I never needed their validation to know I was doing something good. The subject line read, "Let's reset things." It came from a shared email address, my parents and Noah, signing together like some unified front. I opened it out of curiosity, not hope. They didn't say sorry, not really. Instead, they wrote about how emotions had run high, how things might have been misinterpreted, how it was time to move forward as a family. Then in the fourth paragraph it appeared, "We'd really appreciate it," they wrote, "if you could reach out to Chloe and help clear up the misunderstanding. Maybe ask her to take the post down, it's starting to affect things." There it is, I thought. The olive branch wasn't for healing. It was a PR move, a cleanup job, a way to salvage Noah's image in circles that now saw through the shiny glaze. They didn't want me back. They wanted their reputations back. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because for once I understood what silence could mean, not absence, not guilt. Power. Let them sit with the echo they had created. Let them taste the emptiness I'd carried for years. And this time, I wasn't going to fill it for them. The escalation came quietly, like all their cruelties did. First, my father called the hospital, left a message for my department head, claiming he was concerned about my emotional state. Said I'd been acting erratically, that I might be unwell. Fortunately, Dr. Mahmoud knew better. He called me directly, voice calm, but firm. "You're not in trouble," he said. "But I thought you should know." I thanked him, hung up, and sat very still. Next came the group messages, long, vague texts sent to extended family, carefully crafted phrases like, "We're worried about Elena, and she's been pushing us away lately." No mention of disinviting me, no mention of Chloe, just soft manipulation wrapped in fake concern. 2 cousins I hadn't heard from in years sent me yoga retreat links and thinking of you texts. One asked if I needed space or time to process, and then finally the knock. I looked through the peephole, my parents, Noah, standing on my porch like nothing had happened. "We just want to talk," my mom said when I opened the door an inch. I didn't move. I didn't invite them in. I just looked at them steady and still. "No," I said, and closed the door. They stood there for a moment after I shut the door, silent, stunned. I watched through the peephole as Noah shifted from one foot to the other. My mother wringing her hands like she always did when a performance didn't land the way she hoped. My father glanced around as if unsure whether to knock again or walk away, but I didn't open the door. I didn't owe them a scene, not anymore. They hadn't come for me. They had come for the version of me who used to fix things, smooth things over, make everything easier. The daughter who'd cancel her life to preserve their comfort, but she didn't live here anymore. I stood in the quiet afterward, waiting to feel guilty, waiting for the old ache, the one that said you're being too harsh, or maybe they didn't mean it like that. But it didn't come. I just felt free, not angry, not righteous, just done. Later I made tea and sat by the framed letter on my desk. Chloe's words stared back at me. "You made her feel like she mattered," and I thought for the first time, so do I. Even when I say nothing, especially then. The steam from my mug curled into the evening air as I sat at my desk, fingers wrapped around warm ceramic eyes, resting on the framed letter beside me. The world outside was quiet. So was the one inside me. I thought about all the years I spent trying to be easier. softer, smaller, so I wouldn't be called intense or cold or difficult. I twisted myself into silence, into usefulness, into invisibility, just to keep the peace. But peace built on self-erasure isn't peace at all. It's a cage dressed in holiday lights. I was never too much. I was just too real for people committed to pretending. They needed harmony even if it was fake. I needed truth even if it was lonely. And now I think of every hand I've held in a quiet hospital room. Every goodbye I helped soften. Every person I saw when the world had already looked away. I mattered. Not because my family said so, because I showed up where it counted. I sipped my tea and whispered into the stillness. You never needed to shrink for people who refused to grow. And in that truth, finally I felt whole.